Hello there everybody, it is me FreezerBunny and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we're speed building a house called the Bohemian Houseboat, and I'm really excited because this is a little bit more of a fun and creative build that we're building today. Recently I have been building a lot of suburban and realistic homes, so I wanted to mix it up a bit. I've only done one other boat house before, and it was a community lot inspired by a steamboat, so it wasn't necessarily a house, and this is actually my very first residential lot that is supposed to be a boat. And I do say that's supposed to be because I did try to make it look like as close to what a houseboat would look like in real life. And I did look at a lot of houseboats online, and I was particularly inspired by this one place in California called Sausalito. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I really like the character of the houseboats in that place because they all had this like rustic and rickety, almost worn out look to them that I really liked. I was also inspired by houseboats that I've seen in other places like Seattle and Amsterdam, mainly because I really liked the modern, rustic elegance of the houseboats in those places. I think what's really interesting about this build is that it combines two different types of architecture into one. Traditional style architecture in the form of house building and naval architecture in the form of building a boat platform itself, or a pontoon. So you guys can see that the pontoon, or the platform that the house sits on, is actually very streamlined and hydrodynamic, and those are principles that are usually a part of naval architecture. So I definitely wanted to go for a very streamlined look, so you guys can see that there is a lot of curves in this build. Curved roofs, curved platforms, and all that stuff. I also wanted it to look realistic in a way. So a lot of the houseboats that I've seen are actually just like normal houses that are built on top of these pontoons, but I didn't want this to look like just a house on top of a platform, if you guys get what I mean. I really wanted this to look like something that can only exist as a houseboat, and I think that's what made this build a lot more special. So you guys can see that it is very streamlined, and I like to think that it's also really hydrodynamic as well. So right now we are just making some extra structures here that aren't necessarily related to the houseboats. These are actually platforms and bridges that actually lead to the houseboat. And also we are now pretty much laying out the actual lake area, because I do imagine this houseboat to be more of a lake houseboat as opposed to a houseboat in the ocean. Believe it or not, you guys, this house actually has 2 bedrooms and 2 full bathrooms. It looks really small, but it does increase in size. I think what's really interesting about this build is that I keep working on the exterior, even though I'm already well into the interior. I keep hopping back and forth working on the outside because for some reason, it never looked right for me. So this is when I decided to change the outside material from that pastel green color into this more rickety, worn out brown color, which is inspired by some of the houseboats that I've actually seen in reality. I think that having this essence of naturalism is very much a trademark of the Bohemian style, because Bohemian architecture and interior design often features a lot of plants and a lot of natural elements, and if you really look at it closely, it also has a lot of natural textures and a lot of worn out textures. That's why I really associate naturalism with the Bohemian style. Another thing that I also associate with the Bohemian style is something that's very organic. In terms of design, I went for something that was very organic when I was building this houseboat. I wanted it to look like something that existed for decades and something that was plying the waters for many years already. And because it's existed for so long, people have been renovating it different owners have been adding their own, requirements and touches to it. So I didn't want it to be coherent, if you guys get what I mean. I wanted it to look like it was a bunch of different elements put together. I think that organic design is also very much reflected in how I actually built this houseboat. I didn't realize it doing this build, but I think that when I was going for a more organic look, I subconsciously just followed an organic process of adding bits and pieces to the boat as I went, which is something that I imagine people would have done to this houseboat in real life if it did exist. So I thought that was a really interesting process, and I really wanted to show that to you guys. So we are finally working on the interior, and I did actually consistently use that floor texture that came with spooky stuff. I really liked it, and I used it all throughout the house in different colors. The items that I used mainly came from Parenthood. A lot of them came from Parenthood. Some of them might have come with Toddler stuff. I'm not quite sure, but definitely Parenthood. Oh, and definitely movie Hangout stuff. This is a Bohemian style build after all, so definitely a lot of Bohemian stuff from the movie Hangout stuff. I actually really like this kitchen, and this room right here that we're furnishing right now is actually going to be more of the main living area because it's going to serve as both the kitchen and dining room and also the living room as well. So you guys can see that there's a lot of mismatch happening in this build, a lot of different wall textures and a lot of different mismatched furniture, even though there is a common thread that happens in the different types of furnitures that I used. In particular, you guys can see that I used this green counter that came with Parenthood, and that green color is carried on into the different rooms and into the different items and furniture items that we use later on, such as the bookshelves and the closets in the bedrooms. That green color is carried on. I actually really liked that checkered pattern behind the kitchen counters. I think it came out really nicely. And over here, we are putting the small dining room area. Not quite a dining room, it's a dining area. And the dining area actually has this really interesting mix of these chairs. And these chairs are actually the same chair, they just have different swatches. And this is what I was talking to you guys about, the consistency with the different counter cabinets and stuff. So that's what I was trying to do here. I wanted it to look more coherent. So at this point, I went and redid some of the things on the outside. I actually put a deck over here, and I was initially really against the idea of having a second level, but eventually I kind of warmed up to it and I just accepted that it would look significantly better. Having this deck on top of the front of the houseboat made it look a lot more like an actual boat. So I was really happy with how that was turning out. I also had to make adjustments to the roof as well because I wanted it all to look and fit in perfectly. I also used some fences over here for these decks or balcony areas. I really liked how the fences looked. Once again, by using those fences, I feel like it gave the overall look of the houseboat a little bit more of how a houseboat in reality would look like. So I was really happy that I chose to use those fences. So I also wanted to use these lights that came with Toddler stuff. I actually really like these. They look really festive, and I did have a little bit of trouble making them work because, I definitely wanted to have a pole on the other end of those string of lights, but it was a little bit tricky to do it at first, but in the end, I was able to figure it out, and they're there in front, and I think they make it look really nice and festive. So at this point, we are back working on the interior, and this is where we're going to be decorating the kind of like main living room. I'm not even sure if I can call it a living room because it's basically just a place to watch TV. It's like a sitting room where you can watch TV, I guess. Well, it's not really a sitting room. It's like a sitting corner. I do really like the mix of different fabrics on the curtains. I definitely wanted to have that mismatched look that you can kind of recognize from different, bohemian styled homes and bohemian styled interiors. So I definitely wanted to use that. I also placed this really cheap TV on top of this wooden crate, which I really liked. And of course, I can't forget putting in a clock, which is something that I tend to forget. But this time in this build, I didn't because I really like looking at the clocks. Actually, it makes it look more realistic. And I definitely knew that I wanted to use this rattan chair, or this wicker chair. I keep calling it rattan. A lot of people might probably recognize it more if I just call it wicker chair. I mean, either way, it means the same, but I really like this wicker chair. Looks really beautiful. I like that it has cushions on the actual seat itself. I think that we need cushions in The Sims 4. Like, why do most of the chairs, of the sofas, don't have cushions? I don't understand. Speaking of cushions, I also used those cushion ottomans, and I actually really liked how they look. They're so cute. And I also changed the color of the floors into this beautiful white color instead of that dark brown because I wanted to have some separation with the interior and the exterior, and I used some lighter colored textures on the inside and I used some darker colored textures on the outside, which I thought was a great contrast. And this is also when I put some of those hanging fairy lights on the ceiling, and many of the rooms in this build actually have those hanging fairy lights. I really, really liked how they looked, and these hanging fairy lights were actually inspired by the house in Stranger Things. It's Will's house, the house of Winona Ryder that she lives in Stranger Things. I was really inspired by it. I know that show's been out for like a year, but I haven't watched it until recently, mainly because there's a lot of hype for the second season. I was like, you know what, why not give it a chance? Why not check it out for myself? And I actually really liked it. I could not watch it though, just by myself. I had to have like a friend with me because I was just too scared. There were just so many jump scares. Okay, so working on the master bedroom, we also do the same thing with those fairy lights and stuff, and I think there's another bedroom upstairs that also uses these fairy lights as well. You guys are probably gonna get tired of them, but I really liked how they looked in the end. I only refer to this as the master bedroom because it is larger compared to the other bedroom upstairs, but I have to say, I think I like the upstairs bedroom a little bit more because of how small it is, and I don't know, I just really like the upstairs bedroom a little bit more. Either way, I liked both of these bedrooms and I'm really, really happy with how they came out. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and take this time to talk about the people living in this house. So this house is built for 2 people. I imagine both of them to be roommates, and one of them I imagine to be a digital artist, and then the other one I imagine to be more of a traditional artist. So our digital artist is more of a graphic designer, and she also loves photography. I mean, he or she also loves photography, but for this video, it's going to be a she. And her roommate is really into traditional arts like sketching and painting. So her bedroom upstairs is going to have the easel and all the sketches and stuff. And then this bedroom, I really designed it for somebody who does blogs and, like digital art. So that's what I was going for. I also imagined them both to be more free-spirited. Ever since they were teenagers, they really wanted to live in the lake because they're the type of people who really like to pretend like they're mermaids. You guys know it. I know this is a really specific personality trait, but they like to dress up in those like mermaid tails and stuff, and they like to pretend, and they've always wanted to live in a house, but they've always wanted to live in a lake, and that's what they do. They live in this kind of like dream life that they have. It's not the most glamorous life, but it's something that they have a lot of fun with. And they also really like to hang out with their friends and play board games and things like that. So they're very creative and fun loving people. I definitely knew that I wanted to have a computer area, so that's what we're gonna be doing here. And the upstairs area also has a computer area, but I did want this to be a little bit more prominent because whoever lives here is a graphic artist, so she's definitely gonna be in need of a computer more so than the other person upstairs. So I chose a couple of really interesting rugs to put in this room. I have this one that came with City Living, and I sized it up and I changed the color a little bit. And I also used another rug. I believe this one came with vintage glamour stuff, if I'm not mistaken, and it's the piano rug, I'd like to call it. And I put it there, and I felt like the different textures and the different shapes really complemented with the rest of the room. I also used this beautiful cabinet that came with movie Hangout stuff. I really like it because it has the worn out textures, which is exactly what I wanted for this Bohemian style build. And pretty much to finish off this room, I put a crap ton of potted plants. And this is a thing that you guys will see me do all throughout this build, is I clustered so many different types of plants together. But overall, I really liked how they came out, actually. It came out really nice, and I'm really happy with how it all turned out. So I did mention earlier that there were 2 full bathrooms in this build. However, I'm only going to be showing you guys one bathroom that we're going to be furnishing because I had to edit out the other one because I just didn't have time to show it for you guys. But this is the larger and definitely more interesting bathroom out of the 2, and I'm gonna call it the master bathroom. So this bathroom is actually split into 2 because the other half of the bathroom is actually an outdoor shower / bathing area. And I think what's really interesting about this bathroom is that it has a pink toilet, and the upstairs toilet actually has a blue color scheme, and it also had a blue toilet. So I just thought that was a really nice, interesting reference, I guess. So just adding in a couple of pink colored cabinets to finish off the entire look, as well as a couple of clutter items over here. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting because this is the outdoor shower and bathing area. And if you guys have Sims that are not into taking a bath in the freezing cold weather, then they could use the upstairs toilet because that one has an indoor shower and bathtub. This one, however, has an outdoor shower and bathtub because why not? So if your Sims are feeling a little bit adventurous, they can definitely take a bath here. So I did put this trellis area for privacy, and it has these plants as well to give the Sims a little bit more privacy. I've also done this similar trellis on my Bohemian penthouse, so that's a little bit of a reference for those of you guys who also watched that video. I also put a lot of clutter items actually in this outdoor shower area. There's a lot of plants, and there's also a lot of details and stuff. So apparently my audio recording software decided to glitch out, which means that from here on out, I lost the rest of the commentary that I did originally. So I decided to just re-record my commentary because I didn't want to leave you guys like halfway through the video without finishing my commentary. So apologies if I sound a little bit different, but I'd rather re-record my commentary than just leave the video with like no commentary until it ends. But anyway, at this point, we are pretty much building the extension here in the second floor. And as I mentioned earlier, I actually didn't intend to have this second level, but eventually I decided to just add it because I felt like it made the shape of the houseboat a lot nicer. So that's why I decided to, just put it there and put a couple of rooms upstairs as well. I actually really liked how this dormer window came out. It actually looks like a partial archway dormer, which I thought was a really nice, very bohemian looking detail. So I was really, really happy with how that came out. And I've also added a circular window in that dormer window over there that actually looks out from one of the second floor bedrooms. I also changed these archways over here on the main entrance. I changed them into this more interesting looking archway. I actually really liked how that looks. And I'm just adding in a nice little chimney over here just to make it look a little bit more kind of like a houseboat. So I think the chimney really completes the look. So there's 2 rooms on the second floor, and it is the upstairs bedroom, and it also has an ensuite bathroom. I actually really love the upstairs bedroom. It is my favorite room in the entire house because look at how interesting it is. You know, it has a bay window on one side, it has a circular window on the other side, and it opens up to this beautiful, huge balcony, and it just came out really nice. I think because this room also was really small, it looks really nice and rustic. And I think that's really part of the charm and the character of Bohemian architecture. I also threw in these fairy lights, as I mentioned earlier, and I really do think that they complete the entire look, and I really liked the effect. This is the room that I built for an artist, a traditional artist, because the downstairs bedroom, as I mentioned earlier, was actually supposed to be for a digital artist. This one is for an artist that prefers to do artwork using traditional media, such as painting or sketching and things like that. So you guys can see a lot of detail that really references that. I seriously really loved the amount of clutter in this room. So it actually took me a while to fill up this room because it just had so much clutter. And there we go, putting in that nice little easel and also a couple of rugs as well. I will actually replace that rug with the tarp that is supposed to, be used for a place for painting and stuff. So I will actually put a tarp with all the paint splatters on top of that movie Hangout stuff rug. And I also put like a nice little desk over here underneath the circular window. But I think what's really interesting about this room is I actually chose the wallpaper really late into the building of the room. So I did choose a pink wallpaper, a pink and blue wallpaper. So the wallpaper itself is pink, and it's a floral type wallpaper that came with a base game. And it has some wooden accents as well. So at this point, we are actually changing the ground level because there's an extra room that I didn't feel like we necessarily needed. So I kind of demolished it. So this room that we're furnishing right here is actually the main entrance. And I think what's really interesting about this room is that I designed it to be more of like a wellness workout room. There is that yoga mat over there, which I actually really liked. Oh, and this room could also work as a winter garden as well. I guess that could be, a dual purpose for this room. It could be used for doing yoga and for a winter garden as well. So at this point, I think pretty much most of the interior is done, and all that's left to do is actually to do a little bit of the quote-unquote landscaping. And I say that because a lot of the plants actually are potted plants. I think that potted plants are a great way to actually bring a lot of life and a lot of vibrancy to, this mobile floating home. And I actually did this all throughout the houseboat, as well as the decks and the bridges that connect the houseboat to the actual sidewalk. But I will edit those out because it just looks the same, and you guys can see a little bit of an idea of what I'm doing over here. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing for the rest. I was actually really happy that I did this because I discovered a lot of really interesting items that I've never used before. I found these potted trees actually that came with City Living, I believe. And I've never used those before. I've never even noticed those before on build by mode. But over here, I think that they make sense. And right now we are pretty much working on the second floor. I use these lanterns over here to make it look really nice. So at first I wanted to use this coffee table that had like a fire pit in it. And then I figured out that using an actual fire pit. You can actually put love seats and living chairs in the actual fire pit itself, and it will work just fine. I actually didn't discover this until when I did this build, so I actually switched out that coffee table for that fire pit. I also changed that bubble blowing thing into this one that looked a lot more simpler, and I also chose some mismatched chairs to go with it as well. I think the chairs that I chose are mostly ottomans, except for this one really cute purple chair. Looks like it came from a thrift store or a garage sale, but I also really liked how it turned out. I also used this huge giant rug that came with Toddler stuff, and I do not know what they were thinking when they made this rug because it is gigantic, but I was able to find good use for it. And at this point, we are pretty much working on, I'm not sure how to describe it actually. I know that a lot of people use these rock tables and chairs to kind of make a mask for the abrupt change in terrain that is caused by these natural pools, and that is what I am doing here. I'm just putting different rocks and stuff. Overall, I was really happy with how it came out. This did take me a little bit of time to do because all of those rock formations and stuff, I needed to put a lot of work just to make them look right and natural. I also did some landscaping, mostly using weeds and cattails and maybe some cacti and tropical plants as well. I didn't put that many trees actually. In the end, I think I only put 2 willow trees, and yep. That is pretty much it for the landscaping for you guys. I won't show everything because I don't feel like that would be a very wise use of time. But since this video is coming to an end, I just want to say a little bit of an apology because I actually wanted this video to be up a lot sooner last week. But I was just so busy preparing for graduation, doing photo shoots, getting my toga fittings. So hopefully you guys understand if this video is going up a little bit late. But that is going to be it for my commentary. Once again, if you guys want to support the channel, please don't forget to hit that like, favorite, and subscribe button because it really helps out the channel a lot, okay? You all have an awesome day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.